Hello, homies, and welcome back to another episode of Easily Entertained with Maddy McClain. I'm your host, your dutiful pop culture Sherpa, here to guide you through the latest in pop culture from entertainment news and Hollywood to internet combos and the latest findings from my doom scrolling adventures so you don't have to do it. Where to begin this week, homies? For starters, TV is absolutely crushing it, which is both a blessing and a curse, really. Mostly a blessing because obviously we love good TV. Then I would also say a curse because there's now an abundance of choices of what to disassociate to, if you will. Also, my binging habits can get a little bit excessive, so we're trying out this new thing where we are exercising more self-control. So that's been soul crushing. No, it's just the guilt is what is really soul crushing. You know, when you should have quit watching maybe 4 episodes ago. I don't know. But now Netflix is telling you that there are only 2 episodes left. And for me, that just sounds like a challenge. So I'm not really one to turn down a challenge most of the time. That being said, I've truthfully been enjoying watching White Lotus in real time, you know, like 1 episode a week. It's bringing back nostalgic memories of kind of how we used to do it back in the good old days. You know, like early Grey's Anatomy, Desperate Housewives. I don't think I really met the criteria for Desperate Housewives, maybe in the later seasons, but that's a classic in general. You know the vibes, or maybe you don't because you're Gen Z. There are no spoilers of White Lotus in this episode. Do not worry. So without giving anything away, I will say that what I have seen on White Lotus of the full moon party in Kopangan, it's quite accurate. It does feel like a movie scene just without it being one. So that does make that part of shooting the show easier on the producers and directors. So that's nice. But those buckets, let me tell you, literal sand buckets, like you'd give a child to build a sandcastle, right? They just fill the entire bad boy. It looked like in the show you could make your own drinks. Maybe that's the way they do it in Phuket, because I think that's actually where they were filming it. But anyway, maybe. I don't know. I'll check on that. Don't quote me on that part. It is literally Project X on a beach, and people have buckets full of liquor in their systems. There's fire dancers. Great combination, right? I did not partake in that because people do get legitimately like 3rd-degree burns from that, like often. So, you know, it's clearly just made for tourists. That much is clear. But when you lean into it, knowing that, it's so much fun. And obviously, like, don't do drugs, kids. It is a lot of fun. So highly recommend. Just one of those, just do it to do it. Check it off your bucket list while drinking a bucket. Get it? It's White Lotus is great. I highly recommend if you have not been watching it yet, if you haven't jumped on the bandwagon, they are about to or getting close to the finale. So if you're waiting to do it so you can binge watch, I believe it is about safe. It is safe to come out of hiding and to press play. Now you have to look out for spoilers for shows like White Lotus and stuff. I don't feel like that used to be a thing. Maybe I'm being naive, but I'm used to scrolling the socials and trying to avoid any sort of like reality TV spoilers. However, I think it was Mashable. I got like an Apple News alert from Mashable, and they gave away like a major plot point that went down like an hour after the recent episode had aired, which really yanked my chain. So not cool, not cool. What's a girl got to do to avoid spoilers out here? Lucky for us, not only has TV been phenomenal, real life has been just as entertaining lately. Now, I do understand that entertaining is a subjective description. However, here on Easily Entertained, we're choosing to find the humor, shall we say, the layered connections, the things worth chatting about. While it's serious, it's very much unserious, if you will. You'll get it. You'll get it. Just let it, let it sink into your psyche. Let it sit there and marinate. Ever since someone told me like the sexual meaning behind marinate. I can never say that word and not think about it. So it's fully ruined, that word, although it was a pretty shit one to begin with. It just sounds bad. It's like a word like moist. Back to real life being like a movie, I suppose, or like a Bad Maury episode. Kanye West, or Ye, whatever you want to call him, is continuing to try his absolute hardest to fully cancel himself, which confusing as all hell as to how that has not happened yet. And also, while it does not make me want to give his anti-Semitic little self any more attention or a platform, this is a pop culture podcast, and we gotta talk about his latest stunts because, to no one's surprise, really, he takes it yet again way too far, this time involving his own daughter, which is absolutely insane, and I'm ready for him to be put under conservatorship. So we will talk about that on today's episode. We will talk about Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco and the age-old Justin Bieber, Hailey Baldwin, Selena love triangle narrative that is brought back into the pop culture zeitgeist. It never really left, but everyone was like, it's a decades-old narrative here. However, there's more news to add to it. There are things to talk about. So, we'll do just that. Alongside some other pop culture news, we will also talk about the finale of Grant's season of The Bachelor and all of my thoughts, because the finale was a doozy, y'all. I think it made up for the entire season. Although when I say entire season, I say that as if it was long, but it was in fact the shortest season of the Bachelor, Bachelorette franchise in history. So, and that shows because nobody knows really anything really about either Grant or most of the women on the show. But I will save that for that segment. So again, you can check the episode show notes to jump to any segment you want. That way you don't have to waste your time with anything you're not interested in, and continue to listen to this lovely voice soothe you into, dissociation, or help you get those chores done, or whatever it is you're doing. I'm glad you're here, baby. I'm glad you're here. Allow me to break down the latest in the Kim and Kanye public feud and why they're making recent headlines this time. And I will say this time around, it's getting even messier. Just when you thought it couldn't get messier, it does, it can. And when it comes to Kanye, it will. These days, it's another day, another Kanye Twitter X rant that is usually racist and homophobic or just inflammatory and crazy. And it's all genuinely a sad situation at the core of it, to see that this man clearly has mental health issues, but I don't understand why we're not doing anything about it. By we, I mean his loved ones. I know that people try. He's an adult, and you can't necessarily force someone to go get help, especially when it comes to admitting themselves into any sort of health facility. But, can we take a page out of Britney Spears's Toxic Families book? Conservatorship, that whole thing. Wendy Williams, who actually was very recently released from her conservatorship that she was held under for the last few years, she was finally released and then was taken to some sort of nursing home, essentially, or an assisted living facility to live. And then TMZ proceeded to have an interview with her from outside of this assisted living facility. It's like this tall high rise, and you just see her, slapping the glass wall and talking through the phone. So I guess I couldn't come up and do that. Anyways, that's something you need to look up if you haven't seen it yet. A little fun homework for you. But she is now out of that assisted living facility and is heading home. So hopefully things are on the up and up for her. But same with Britney Spears. I feel like once a woman is put in something like that and likely drugged to oblivion to just sedate them, that probably sets them up for some years of resolving that trauma. But we wish her all the best. We love Wendy Williams, and we love to see somebody get freed. That being said, is it just for women or something? Is that the case? I don't understand. I think that might be the answer here. And all of this is, I know I'm making light of this, but just know that all of these things and what I'm about to talk about do deal with very serious topics. It's just insane to me that after Kanye's Super Bowl stunt, where he basically bait and switched, I guess, the Super Bowl network in order to run his Yeezy ad that then went to his website where he was just selling a single t-shirt with a swastika on it. Beyond the just absolute mind-boggling fact that he hasn't fully been canceled or anything like that, his latest antics now involve his very own daughter, Northwest. So Ye was teasing a new single on X, of course, featuring Kim and his very own daughter, Northwest, and P. Diddy, like the most hated, terrible, heinous man that is currently being held in jail right now. Yeah, that guy. P. Diddy's son, Christian, and allegedly some new signed Yeezy artist. I guess they have a label. I don't know. The single is called Lonely Roads Still Go to Sunshine, and he released this against the wishes of Kim, who is currently in the process of trademarking Northwest's name so that until she turns 18, Kim can prevent some kind of collaboration like this, can prevent Kanye from doing anything crazy, as Northwest does have aspirations to be a rapper and a musician, and she's already been featured on a few other projects with Yeezy and some other rappers. That being said, he's very much using this for, I don't know if it is just for shock value, if it is truly he has it out for the Kardashians. And I mean, he's not fully there. So I don't think we can fully reason anything like this because it makes zero sense. So he features his own daughter with a pedo and an alleged, schmafficker, okay? And I can play that for you here now, but I'm not going to play Northwest part because that's kind of this whole legal battle. That's the basis of it. So I won't play that portion, but I will play you the beginning clip of the song. I had to find this on Reddit. I'll play you what I have here. And this first part is actually a clip from none other than P. Diddy and Kanye's phone call that they had while P. Diddy is locked up in jail. Just so sweet.
Yeah. Thank you so much for just taking care of my kids, man. Cause ain't nobody reach out to them. Ain't nobody call them. You know what I'm saying? Nobody, you know what I'm saying? That meant so much. You know what I'm saying? That you reached out to them and took them under your wing while I'm in this motherfucker, man. And I appreciate you. Bird up, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I love you so much, man. It's like you raised me even when I didn't know you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm still in love, man.
Been on my own for a long time. Lonely roads to go to sunshine.
If you had trouble understanding what was being said, basically Diddy and Kanye were blowing smoke up each other's buttholes and complimenting each other, and it ends with Diddy saying, "I love you so much, man, and means so much to have you call me and reach out to me." And Kanye replies and says, "Yeah, absolutely. I love you so much, man. It's like you raised me." So now this was brought into the ether because, of course, Kanye had to bring everything public, and none other than on X, any screenshots, a bunch of texts with Kim where Kim is telling him to take that song down, that she has trademarked Northwest's name to prevent something like this. And honestly, no matter what your opinions on Kim Kardashian are, love her, hate her, don't care, I think that's a good mama bear move. She trademarked her name to protect her 11-year-old daughter, let me remind you, and prevent the song from being released. So Ye goes off and shares all of these screenshots where he tells her, so interesting that he lets us, just gives evidence of his absolute chaoticness. He tells Kim, "Amend it or I'm going to war. You're going to have to kill me." He wanted to, quote, "show that I'm not playing." Since then, Kanye has deleted the song and the text screenshots, but it is the internet, people, so you can dig around and find those things. Why the hell would he so publicly support P. Diddy, who, by all accounts, is allegedly guilty, allegedly, to bring on his 11-year-old daughter, who is the age of many victims of P. Diddy himself. It is absolutely mind-boggling. Not only that, then we have a news report comes out nearly 24 hours later how Kanye was having the Tate brothers come over, also alleged schmaffickers. Okay, so great choices of human beings to come over while Northwest, their daughter, is also over. Thankfully, their bodyguard was a homie and tipped Kim off and was able to intervene and get Northwest home before those two Tate brothers did come over and hang out. Who's going to be next? Harvey Weinstein? I simply do not understand what the angle is here, but it's not good. And I don't think we're ever going to fully understand it. So my best solution here that I can offer to the table is a conservatorship. It still does make me very sad to see just the complete downfall of Kanye West as a 2010s fan, graduation, pre-mom's death, which, yes, no judgment on how one handles loss. However, judgment on failing to address and, get some help. I hope that Kim is able to win this battle. And now I believe they are in legal talks of trying to get sole custody. Both sides want sole custody, of course. And you hate to see this. When children are involved, it's so much harder. And it has this extra layer of seriousness. And I mean, as I just said, things on the internet are pretty much forever. So everyone's kids, celebrity or not, mommy vlogger or not, will eventually and can see all of this come out. So I think people tend to forget that. And I know that Kim doesn't forget that. And that is exactly why she's trying to protect her. It is a real stank of a situation. Also, I'm kind of scared for his ex, Bianca Censori. I don't think they're officially legally divorced, but Bianca Censori, his wife, ex-wife, however you want to call her, the one he made strip down naked at a Grammy Awards show, uninvited, for the world to see. Yeah, that was a real hard watch, a really hard watch. I know she's a woman and makes her own choices and all of that, but something tells me that wasn't all her own choice. So take that as you will. Now we can move on to a happier love story. Although don't worry, we will get to the juicy details, the juicy new details, might I add, or just confirmed details. Should I say details one more time? A resurfaced YouTube video via a TikTok 7-part series that you may have heard about if you are chronically online like me. The age-old, rather decades-old, Justin Bieber, Hailey Baldwin, Selena Gomez love triangle narrative that never really died is brought back up into the zeitgeist. Why, you might ask? Why is this old tired narrative being brought up? I will tell you why. And it is because whoever made this documentary, which is by Internet Oddities again on YouTube, that's the OG video, ultimately an argument that Hailey Baldwin Bieber, she has some stalker-like tendencies. And if it's not that, then there are like 30 plus crazy coincidences that seem to make it look just like that. Let me begin this too by saying that, first of all, fandoms can be weird, okay? Much like parasocial relationships that people can make with popular influencers or any type of internet personality. Some people can go from a fan to an obsessive Joe from You stalker-like character or tendencies very quickly. Which is ironic because this story and how it's being resurfaced involves both of those kinds of relationships, stalker-like tendencies and parasocial relationships. The other thing I want to say is prior to me watching this video, I was in the camp of people just want to make this happen so bad. And so, Selena fans or fan pages have put together video montages of, Selena and Justin together reminiscing and like wishing they were back together and all of these hateful things towards Hailey Baldwin too. And I felt like people needed to leave Hailey alone. Like the poor girl, she was just the girlfriend after, But then hearing all of this information, I have to say, I still think that people are crazy mean, and this does not mean anyone should bully anyone, obviously. I will say it does kind of add a little bit of weight or potential truth to the conspiracy theories and supposed fan fiction narratives. We've seen photos and videos of the time in which Selena and Justin broke up years ago. We're talking 2018. They clearly had a public toxic relationship, videos of them having arguments, Selena and Justin both looking upset or having just cried and, obviously Selena was going through it, honey. Okay. And she's been very open about that. And throughout her kind of musical career, we've seen her growth and her healing and going through all of that, from Lose You to Love Me, kind of her goodbye song, to now Selena and her new fiance, Benny Blanco, just released a new album. And first of all, it's great, but it is interesting the timing of this. So their album just released this past Friday. Highly recommend you listen to it if you have not already. It's around the same time that these TikTok videos that took clips from this documentary that is titled Hailey Bieber's Dangerous Decade-Long Obsession, not inflammatory at all, but this all started to pop up around the same time. In this documentary of sorts, it shows kind of Hailey's fixation on the couple. There's been an infamous clip of Hailey Bieber shortly after the two of them got married in 2018, 2019, I want to say, when their wedding was. She was on Jimmy Fallon's show, and Jimmy asked Hailey if she's been a believer. And she looks to the crowd and says, no, believe it or not, he was so new at the time. No. Oh, girl, the way she didn't think about the internet's existence is pretty hilarious, because the documentary then goes on to show receipts, honey, upon receipts, timeline, screenshots, proof. That is a Real Housewives reference, if Salt Lake City. There are videos and photos upon photos of early days Justin Bieber, early in his discovery, of Hailey literally creeping in the background, just like watching. And this kind of Perez Hilton type fan page girl in the 2010s. So that would be like today's like a Reddit snark page, or Perez Hilton, I don't know, just some gossipy page like a Dumois. She was known as Stalker Sarah, or Sarah the Stalker, who has taken somewhere around 9,000 photos with celebrities. So it's just the thing she did. No one knew how she was finding out where they were or how she was able to do this. And she kept a pretty low anonymous-ish profile outside of those photos. So she knew where celebrities were at all times, and was a part of a ton of different like fandoms, from Disney to, I don't know, Demi Lovato, Miley, and Selena, as well as Justin Bieber. So Sarah the Stalker and Hailey Baldwin, the alleged stalker, exchange tons of DMs back and forth before Hailey made her way into the quasi-A-list celeb crowd of Kendall and Kylie Jenner and the Hadid sisters. Before she had that access to Justin, she would use Sarah the Stalker. And this is proven both by interviews with Sarah and screenshots and proof of these conversations, but also in plenty of paparazzi photos and documented videos of Hailey in the distant background for years. So this is when, prior to them fully meeting, at age 16, her dad, Stephen Baldwin, introduces the two. And then we see clips later on, too, of how they describe this first meeting. And Justin basically comes to the realization on live TV, on another talk show, that it was, probably, quote, kind of an arranged marriage, basically. So that's, if any man, my husband, describes my marriage as basically a arranged marriage, I don't know if I love that. I don't know. To recap the very obvious lie of Hailey claiming she was never a believer prior to meeting and eventually dating and marrying Justin, then it goes on to show Hailey throughout the years copying everything Selena does Wears says, I mean, to a T, bar for bar. So the video will show back to back within some are within 24 hours, some are a few weeks, some are a few years of literally Hailey, and it's always after Selena, of Hailey imitating or copying word for word something Selena says in an interview or something Selena wears out, or even to the poses Selena does in her Instagram photos, to starting a literal makeup company, a makeup line, and the promotional images that she uses for that. Literally everything. There was a cooking show they both had. The intro in the pilot episode, Hailey literally says the same thing along the lines of this is filmed in my real kitchen. And then you see Hailey saying, this is filmed in my very own kitchen. Like, I mean, bar for bar. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I can't even list it all. We would be here for a long time. So I just have to say the receipts, the evidence is evidencing. It is evidencing. And it's not looking good for Hailey Baldwin Bieber. I would be horrified if I were her. I do still feel bad for her because, I mean, this shit has been going on for years. But it's a little sticky. They also, Hailey ended up getting the exact same behind the ear tattoo as Selena. It was a G, which Selena got for her little sister, allegedly. And then Hailey said that she got it for Georgia, the daughter of her pastor. So, which this is a whole other topic, but they bring up a church that I actually attended in LA, and they're mixing it up. It's a different church, but yeah, now people are basically continuing to fuel the rumors that the church or the pastors or whoever arranged this marriage, and there were photos of Hailey and pastor's wife literally driving by Selena's house multiple times, and once while Selena was in treatment to, quote, make sure she was in treatment and doing well. I don't know. Also, were you aware that it was literally 2 months later from Justin and Selena's final breakup, and when Selena went off to get treatment, 2 months later, Justin and Hailey were married? Okay? So that's pretty crazy. That also shows you, I mean, I am going to stereotype here, so I guess trigger warning, I don't know. But you know I'm right. Men, they tend to be the ones quicker to hop into relationships post-breakup. And then later on, the kind of healing they need to do, catching up with them later. Okay? Whereas girlies who are healing, we feel it, we go through it. And as someone who's also experienced a traumatic relationship and a breakup, mind you, healing is not linear. So to all the people who are saying, get over it, Selena, to these recently released songs that have been confirmed to be addressing this situation, by the way, are saying, get over it, yada, yada, like you're getting married now. Respectfully, STFU. She's releasing these memories to be forgotten and make room for the next chapter, alongside her new man, Benny Blanco, who is such a sweetheart in the way that he talks about her and to her and in interviews and all that. Amazing. People need to learn and just learn from him. Anyways, all to say that this is a very healing album, and I love to hear Selena kind of address it and quit, quote, killing him with kindness, as people are saying. She's done killing him with kindness. And honestly, I kind of love that for her. The only reason we know that one of the songs is definitely likely about Hailey and Justin is the song called Don't Take It Personally in the I Said I Love You First joint co-album. Selena has confirmed that these lyrics that she's singing were actual words said to her from someone else. And some of these lyrics include things like, please don't take it personally. Some things are just meant to be. Don't waste all your energy. We both know that he loves me. Oh, honey, you deserve it. I know you're going to find somebody perfect. Another song on the album that people are talking about is You Said You Were Sorry, among others, but for a banger, Bluest Flame is great. It is kind of electro pop, the Charlie XCXification of pop music, if you will. But I really think Selena's found her voice, and that makes sense because she has found her mans who is man enough to allow her to heal from this relationship and talk about it and be right there by her side and not be insecure about it. And I absolutely love that for her. She is very deserving of that. Seeing her happy and in a good place is great. And I hope Justin's in a good place too. I still think it is a bit ridiculous how some of these fandoms can treat and talk to people they truly don't know and spend time writing horrific comments on social media. Since this all came out, Justin and Hailey Bieber have been spotted going out to dinner and, showing to the paps. Every time I say paps, I think of a pap smear. I'm trying to say a shortening abbreviation for paparazzi, but I simply can't get behind that. The paparazzi. There we go. They did that for the paparazzi. They did that for us to show that their marriage is still strong, and they do have a baby together that we never see, but that's probably on purpose. They probably don't want the paps getting photos of their baby, but at the same time, we see him out and about a lot, but no child. Jack Blues Bieber. That's a very cute name. My nephew's name is Jack as well, so I approve. Speaking of paps, also, I guess I am getting behind it as I'm using it now. Now I just think it's funny. It's our little inside joke, you guys. We have an inside joke. Paps. Anyways, so paparazzi also snapped photos of Jen Aniston and Pedro Pascal outside of a bar in Hollywood after having I guess they know for some reason that it was a 3-hour-long dinner. Imagine. They just sit outside while people are living life, having dinner, and you're just waiting there with your $3,000 camera. Anyways, that's a weird life. I would love to speak with a paparazzi member. Anyways, so now they've sparked some dating rumors, and everyone is thrilled about this. And you can count me as one of everyone, because I, for one, think, well, they're both gorgeous human beings, and it's age appropriate, which low-key is rare in Hollywood. So we love to see some more of that. Aniston is 56, believe it or not, and Pascal is 49. That's pretty cool. We also have another age-appropriate Hollywood icon couple in Meryl Streep and Martin Short, which is amazing. This came out after the awards season and the wrapping of the latest season of Only Murders in the Building, in which they both star in, alongside, of course, Steve Martin and Selena Gomez. So, wow, it's all connected. Someone made a comment somewhere at some point in time, so I cannot attribute it, but I can attribute it not to myself. Someone made a comment that said, it feels like we're just pulling from the same small, tiny pool in Hollywood and just recycling them for all the big movies and TV shows. Yeah, I haven't stopped thinking about that since, because it's absolutely true. It's not the deepest thought ever, but there's some room for new blood. And we know how much Hollywood likes blood. Am I right? Just kidding. I don't believe that. Now, this segment will have spoilers. So if you have not watched or caught up with Grant's season of The Bachelor, I advise you to skip forward to the next segment, which you can find in the show notes. Now, we have to talk about so many things. We can quickly review the finale or final episode as Grant was making his decision between his final two women, Latia and Juliana. I will start this by saying my favorite has truthfully always been Juliana. I've been a Juliana stan since the beginning. However, I did always see him ending up with Latia until she dropped the bomb that she's Mormon way late. I think the episode before Hometowns. It was way late in the season. We will most definitely get to that, because I feel like it's a very important aspect of it that I don't see a ton of people talking about. I don't know if people are scared about it or what, but I do think Latia's religion has a lot to do with the result of the season and Grant's ultimate choice. The season finale episode always begins the same, and this season was no different, where the final two have their last one-on-ones before the day of the proposal. or alleged proposal or supposed engagement, whatever ends up happening. But I find these to be, truthfully, the least interesting parts of the season. But they both have some really good one-on-one time and basically present their final arguments as to why Grant should choose them, essentially. They also meet Grant's family this episode, which is his sister, who was featured on the season premiere, where she met all the women. And at first they made it like she was some woman from his past, but it was, surprise, his sister. So she was there, his mom and his dad, who he talked about a lot throughout the season. His dad was there, and this was the first time his whole family was brought together for, I think he said something like 10 years or something. So that's pretty crazy to see. And there was a really emotionally charged, kind of beautiful moment that was captured on the episode, I will say, between Grant and his father. That was really sweet. And I like to see two men get in touch with their emotions. And that's exactly what happened. I will say it had to have been really tough for Grant's dad to show up and be filmed and agree to be filmed and also be involved at that in the season and with the show, given that Grant is very open about his dad's battle with addiction and drugs and how that affected his growing up and his relationship and ultimate divorce from his mom and all of that. I totally respect his dad for being so open about that too. And I'm sure they had a conversation and that wasn't like, didn't come as a surprise to him. They both meet the women and it goes super well with Latia. She's the first one to meet the family. Grant does start this by saying before the women arrive that he has no idea what he's doing. And he's supposed to propose the next day. And he is not leaning one way or the other, and he's having the most difficult time making a decision. Jesse Palmer did tell the whole live audience and us at the beginning of the episode that this is the toughest time in Bachelor history that someone has had in making their final decision. And by that, we mean 45 minutes until he proposed. So both women were in the limos arriving, and they had to ask him, okay, we have to choose now or never, basically. Like, we need to know who to send in first because the person that is sent in first is getting broken up with. That was pretty wild, and he was not lying about that. I don't think we have seen that. What we have seen, though, and I think is worse, is beyond, the point of engagement or broke it off and then got back together with the, runner-up, a la Ari, his season. However, now Ari and Lauren, who he chose, he broke up with the first woman that he chose. I can't remember her name, sorry. Love ya, respect ya. I mean, he was a villain, let me tell you. But now those two have 4 kids. I think they're going for the record of the most babies of a Bachelor couple. Anyways, so back to the ladies meeting Grant's family. Goes really well with Latia. It seems like the family is pretty sold on her. I mean, they love the fact that she's also a religious woman. They never, by the way, in this 3 hours, ever mention Mormonism or the fact that Latia is a Mormon, not once, which I think was crazy, and I don't understand that. They also, however, are on the ABC network that also hosts the show Secret Life of Mormon Wives. So I don't know if they just don't even want to breach that subject there. I think there's a potential maybe we'll see Latia on that show next because there's not a Bachelorette this go around. You get to Juliana meeting their family. They seem a little bit more hesitant with her actually, but there's a really good conversation between Juliana and Grant's dad where, she's asked up front if she loves Grant, and Juliana actually tells his mom that she has not said it yet. They have not said it yet, but she knows that is where they're going. And she's just being careful and cautious since there's another woman there. And her mom didn't seem to like that and told Grant, okay, if that doesn't change, do not get with her, basically. So it kind of seems like they may be leaning towards Latia there. Then flash forward, Latia's not nervous at all. And that's when I start to get nervous is when Bachelor producers show any one of the contestants super confident and saying really confident things, and especially namely that they're not worried at all and they're excited. That's usually a bad foreshadowing in this show, at least in the context of this show. So, yeah, well, as we know, if you've watched it, turns out that that is exactly the case. So, after all of that, Grant's deliberating, cannot make up his mind. I think everybody was shocked to see that Latia was the one to exit the limo first. I actually thought that he was going to choose her. It was a lot, and the final date leading up to the engagement that she did kind of make it clear there, and maybe we don't hear all of their conversations, but she kind of chooses then to drop the bomb, in my opinion, that she's ready to have kids like within the next 2 years. And Grant has said that that's not what he wants. So I do think that changed things quickly too. But it was kind of a shock. Everyone in the live audience did the most perfect gasp at seeing Latia leave. And then their breakup was one of the most explosive. I have to say, after seeing a season of shy, coy, timid Latia, who kind of annoyed me with that baby girl voice, honestly, this made me like her more to an extent. Grant ends things with her. Each of the final contestants usually do like a final speech and lets her get through the whole thing, and says, "I love you very much. I want to give you everything you deserve, but I'm not your person." Latia's face dropped and you could just see the shock, the utter shock, and she did not hold back. Grant says something along the lines of, "I hope this doesn't make you think differently of me." And Latia responds with, "Oh, of course it does. Come on now." And then she kind of kept saying, "Come on now" to him. It was one of the realest demonstrations of shock. I think her defenses immediately went up and she kind of dropped the baby girl voice and did not hold back. Latia basically presses him on, "Well, when did this change? After everything you've said to me? Like, what?" And continues to press him on it. And he really doesn't have anything to add or say. And he asks her, "Do you feel like I have been, leading you on, or what do you feel like I've done something?" And she says, "Yeah, I mean, I think Juliana is a great girl, but if I were her, I would have a lot of questions for you based on everything that you've said to me throughout the season, and especially in fantasy suites." We learn allegedly what those things are after the final rose, which are things including him saying, "We can just go ahead and cut it, wrap the season. I found my wife" on the second episode. So that, I have to agree with Latia there. That's quite misleading. Allegedly, he continued to affirm her in that way and basically say she's got it in the bag throughout the season. That's from Latia. The thing is, Grant doesn't really contest that. He doesn't really engage at all. And I don't know if that's just a choice to stay out of it and to kind of let that chatter end, or if he is not really contesting what it is that Latia is alleging he said. He said things throughout the show. She claimed that he kept, quote, "raising the stakes" and went out of bounds. And at one point she had asked him, "I know you can change your mind. I know what I've signed up for, but, so don't say these things if you don't mean them." And he continued to do so. That's from Latia's POV. I have to say the aggressiveness was kind of shocking. It was a complete turnaround and a complete switch up, but it was just a defense mechanism in my mind of her, being heartbroken and being totally caught off guard in that moment. The part that I did not like is the parts in which it felt like she was shading or trying to drag Juliana down, being like, "Well, I know I don't want my man to be that confused on the day that he proposes to me. I deserve much more," that kind of thing, that it starts to be a little disrespectful to Juliana because she didn't do anything here. I think Grant, yes, he did do something wrong. He led her on. He did somewhat admit to that. But I also think that Grant doesn't deserve a ton of hate for that because it is literally The Bachelor. At the Women Tell All, it became clear too that a lot of the women, whenever they left, weren't expecting it, and they all claim to have felt a bit blindsided. So I do think Grant is the kind of guy that, and I think he's a Pisces or something. Regardless, he's a musician, so he's an artiste. And I feel like he really put his all into The Bachelor, into dating each and every single girl. Grant seemed to get caught up in the moment and say these things that he means, saying really encouraging things to Latia, like, I love you, I love you, I love you. He just loses himself and says these things. And it is The Bachelor too. They have to really jump into these multiple relationships. So I also don't think it was totally fair because, come on now, Latia in my opinion, chose to hide the fact that she is a practicing Mormon until he had already fallen in love with her. I think that was a little emotionally manipulative too. So it is strange to me that that was never talked about in the 3 hours of the finale. I think that and the pressure to have babies soon was ultimately the demise of Latia and Grant. And Grant ultimately chose Juliana, who I personally love. She is a bubbly, kind of Italian burst of flavor. I think that they have a lot of fun together, and that's how we described it too. And I don't think that that means it's not as deep or as meaningful. Some people in the interwebs were saying that by Grant calling his relationship with Juliana more fun, that means that it's more surface level, but I don't think that's the case. It did seem to me like he had a stronger emotional connection with Latia, and that's why I thought maybe they would end up together. And just sometimes the way that he would act in group dates that were definitely different towards her in comparison to the other girls. But personally, I think that's a great choice. I think for their lifestyles too. Will it work long term? That is yet to be seen. But I hope that Juliana does get her, quote, flowers, and that people kind of bandwagon to support her and not get lost in kind of the drama of the Latia thing. Latia's already hanging out with some of the biggest Bachelor Nation stars from previous seasons, so I feel like we will definitely see her again too. The After the Final Rose showed us that very different side of Latia and no baby girl voice, and she kind of continued to lay into him. The audience seemed to like it, applauding her, and I understand her reaction. I understand her being angry. I do think it was overboard, and she kind of continued to say comments that would be a little bit demeaning towards Juliana. That being said, on Grant's defense, we've seen in several other seasons, including Sean Lowe's season, where he chose Catherine, who was definitely like the dark horse, like came in towards the end, the quote, slow burn, if you will. And I think Grant did not know that he would have such a hard time choosing until his relationship with Juliana took off. The happy couple in matching dark brown, which is, of course, the color these days, they made their way on stage and they truly do seem really happy. It was funny because they brought this up too, that at the Women Tell All, Grant looked not happy. So I was convinced, among others, after making memes of Grant looking super unhappy and ready to get the fuck out. I thought that maybe he would end up solo, but I'm glad to see it did work out. I personally ship Grant and Juliana. I want to know what you think though. What do you think about the way it ended and how Latia confronted Grant? What do you think about Grant's behavior? And what do you think about the announcement of the new, which I called this years ago, a Golden Bachelor in Paradise? Yes, they made this announcement first by bringing up the third runner-up, who I felt kind of bad. She was in a bright red bachelorette-style dress and was sitting there with Jesse. And usually that's when Jesse would ask her to be the next bachelorette, but they're not doing that this year. And instead we have Golden Bachelor in Paradise, in which Zoe and our Golden Paradise, quote, favorites will be returning this summer to find their new love. They did not provide any details, literally at all, about how exactly this will go down. And I was waiting for that. I think we were all waiting for that. But yes, there will be Goldens, as well as regular old Batch Nation 20s and 30s, all together on the beach. Will they be dating each other? Will they be dating separately and then voting? How will this work? Apparently, we won't know. So until that airs, I don't know how I feel about it. Admittedly, as a girly pop who's always liked older men, I don't know how it's going to look to have these, I think they're in their like 50s and 60s dating 20-year-olds. I don't know. Truthfully, please tell me what you think about this, because it is unreal. And I think it was really a joke that us in Bachelor Nation were asking for, and they took this one seriously. I, for one, feel like it's going to be a flop, truthfully, not to be a negative Nancy, but it could be great. Who knows? We were pleasantly surprised by The Golden Bachelor and Golden Bachelorette, I think, in general, based on how well it did. So maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised with this one too. That is all for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, my dearest homies, don't forget to send us a text. You can press that link in the episode show notes and send us anything you desire. I'd love to hear from you, hear what you guys think, controversial takes, your lukewarm takes. I will take it all. You can also find us at easilyentertainedpodcast.com and at easilyentertainedpod on Instagram. I will see you next time. Until then, my friends, bye.